Hello beautiful people, listen Dharma, welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be checking this video and it's titled Prince William has washed his hands off Prince Harry. They haven't spoken in 2 years. Okay, interesting. We're going to be checking this video together. Let's check it out.
Story on the front page of the Times, Stephanie, about what Prince William has sort of let it be known.
Well, Prince William apparently has told friends that when the time comes and he will be coronated as king, he will not be extending an invite out to Prince Harry, his younger brother. I feel like William has had enough of Harry. He's kind of washed his hands off him. I think spare was the final nail in the coffin because Harry didn't leave no stone unturned in that book, including apparently William beating him down to the ground over an argument they had about the Duchess of Sussex. And I think, you know, King Charles has been quite father-like in trying to bring Harry in when he can at these big events. But I think William, apparently the pair haven't spoken in 2 years. So I can't imagine when the time comes and it's William's big moment that he is going to want to extend that olive branch to Prince Harry, which is forever a shame.
That would be such...
Well, we sincerely hope, I think as Stephen said earlier, that this coronation is a very, very long way off and King Charles is in spectacular health. But, look, every minor royal and ambassador is going to be there. There's going to be thousands and thousands of people at whenever this coronation is. Surely there is room to sort of have Prince Harry in a dark corner somewhere so they never actually meet, right? I find it astonishing that he wouldn't be there and the sort of scandal and what it would say about Britain if he wasn't.
But I think this happened...
Well, I mean, he brought this upon himself when he was writing all of those interesting details or quite interesting details or information about the incident or things that happened in his family. Didn't he know what the consequences of all of those things? Because, I mean, who does that to their family? Who does that?
I understand William's animosity.
I think this happens in normal families when brothers fall out.
Yes.
When brothers fall out, no,
Exactly.
he's not coming to my wedding. I don't want him at my funeral. So I think what's the difference here just because they are a royal family? I think they've had so much publicised about them, William and Kate, from Harry and Meghan, that it's like, why should they just act up?
I don't know that Harry would want to go, to be perfectly
Well, Meghan
honest.
surely wouldn't.
Oh, no,
Well,
no.
She's ever going to set foot in this country? Hello again, 7:31. The Duke and Duchess of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex conclude their 4-day tour of Colombia today.
Oh, would you carry on? I'm going to sneeze.
Oh, right. Overnight, Colombian locals have urged Prince Harry to use his visit to apologise for the British Crown's role in the colonial slave trade.
Well, it comes as the King is reportedly set to axe Prince Andrew's security team at Royal Lodge in Windsor. The latest move from the King to try to eject his younger brother.
Yeah, so there's lots of royal news around today. Shall we talk to former royal correspondent Michael Cole? Morning, Michael. I mean...
Good morning, Anne. Good morning, Stephen.
Prince Harry cannot get involved in this so-called apology, can he? He doesn't have the status to do so.
No, and that would have to come from a higher place than where he sits at the moment. It's worth pointing out that the first country in the world that ever banned slavery was this country in 1807. And we eradicated it from the British Empire 30 years before the Americans banned slavery in their great country. And during that time, the Royal Navy suppressed slaving around West Africa, excuse me. And the Royal Navy, in fact, lost more than 1,000 men doing that patrol. So slavery is an abomination. It's inexcusable, but it happened in a very different world from the one, thankfully, that we live in today. But when this country saw the error of its ways, it took steps through Clarkson and Wilberforce to ban slavery and then have it eradicated from anywhere that the British flag flew.
Yes.
But let's even talk about this, because apologizing for slavery or whatever, like, it doesn't even make sense. People keep talking about this, say apologize on this, on that, or things or events that happened in the past. Like, really, the exact same thing that he said here. It was an abomination. It was something that happened in the past. But let's look at it and correct the wrongs, and make sure it doesn't repeat itself again. So who is to say that, okay, one particular group of people to apologize? So let me get this straight. So the British or Britain or the British people should apologize for what exactly? You hear the people say, oh, colonialism was their fault. They came and they took some people, countries, treasuries, whatnot, and all of that. Britain is where it is today because of the kindness of their hearts. Imagine if Britain did not come together, or some group of people did not come together, or British people did not come together to decide or to say, okay, let them abolish slavery. Imagine what the world would look like. Then talk about colonialism. Are we also going to be talking about the families of the people or the soldiers or armies that were lost? So what are we doing? I don't even get, like, this is just breeding some level of victimhood. Well, victimhood sells. It sells. So it don't even make sense. Let me know what you think. But again, telling Harry, really? Well, what do you think? What do you think? Because it's not even making sense. We can just be honest with ourselves, because for how long will this continue, that people breed off and leave this level of victimhood of slavery that did not happen to them, that happened to their ancestors? So are we going to be saying that, okay, for everything that your ancestors, or for every sin your ancestors committed, you're going to be apologizing? Does that even make sense? Interesting.
It's very odd that it's all talk about all this stuff which is several hundred years old and expect us to do stuff about it now. Can I ask you about Prince Andrew? What is the king? Is the king really so teed off that he's going to pull security to try and get him out of Royal Lodge?
Stephen, this is a radical move by His Majesty. We're talking here about the Royal Lodge. And I say the Royal Lodge because King George V was a great stickler for these things, and he always insisted on a definite article. The Royal Lodge is a glorious white wedding cake Georgian house, 3 stories high, set in the middle of Windsor Great Park, surrounded by trees and beautiful gardens. Prince Andrew, see him there, lives there, and strangely enough, his ex-wife also lives there. The king wants his younger brother to move to Frogmore Cottage, which was done up at great expense for the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, but they decided that Canada and then America was more homely for them. It's a problem because Prince Andrew has a lease. He has a 75-year repairing lease, which means he has to look after the place. Now, the king can't move him out legally, but he's letting his feelings know by removing his security. What he's done, he's let the security people who provide security for Royal Lodge, or the Royal Lodge, know that their contract will not be renewed when it expires. Now, Prince Andrew is going to look at this in a very, very unhappy way. He obviously has a lot of burdens on his life for past indiscretions, which we all know about, and he will not like this at all. He also complained in the past when royal security protection, close protection, was removed from his daughters. So security is a big problem, not just for Prince Harry when he comes to this country, but for the late Queen's second son.
But that means if the king is not going to pay for the security at the Royal Lodge, Prince Andrew is going to be either very, very vulnerable, or he's going to have to move into Frogmore Cottage, which is much smaller. How is he going to live there with his ex-wife? I can imagine in the Royal Lodge there's plenty of space for them to live separate lives, but not in Frogmore.
No, well, it was originally, I think, 3 or 4 houses run together. Before, when Meghan was going to move in there, a great job was done on it. I must say that whatever it cost, Prince Harry did repay that. So the taxpayer did not have to pick up build that. But you can imagine that it was done up to a very high standard, and it's set in almost in the shadow of Windsor Castle. I mean, almost everybody watching this program would actually like to live there. It would be beautiful compared with probably the houses they do live in. But the Prince Andrew, who is very, very proud of his status and asserts it whenever he feels he has to, will not want to downgrade. I think what is at the back of the king's mind, and it's quite understandable, that he would wish his oldest son, Prince and Princess of Wales, and their 3 children, they'd have more space there if they were able to live there, and it would be more appropriate for them. At the moment, they're living in Adelaide Cottage, which is a quite nice place on the other side of Windsor Great Park, but it was always used by staff members, by the racing manager, and in a very celebrated way, it was used by Group Captain Peter Townsend and his wife. He was the equerry who became very close to the Queen's younger sister, Princess Margaret, and in those days, it wasn't a very nice place. Captain Townsend's Group Captain Townsend's wife said it was the coldest place she'd ever been in her whole life. Well, perhaps she was talking about the situation she was in because she later divorced the Group Captain after his close friendship with Princess Margaret became, well, talk of the town.
Absolutely, yeah. We'll have to leave it there. It's absolutely fascinating. As you say, Frogmore Cottage would be a place that most of us would absolutely love. I mean, what a location. Thank you very much to Michael Cole. But I can also imagine...
Well, look at the size of it. I'm just looking at it on Google Maps.
Yeah, that's Frogmore Cottage.
That's Frogmore Cottage.
It's not what I'd call a cottage, exactly. It's a huge place. But if it was redone, as Michael said there, by Meghan and Harry, I can't imagine Kate wanting to move into a place that was designed and redone by Meghan.
No.
And nor William maybe either.
No.
Because other stories around today are saying that William has made it very clear to his friends that when his time comes for his coronation, he will not be inviting Harry.
Well, let's hope it's a long time off, and let's hope things have thawed a little bit. Andy Jones and Stephanie Tetchy, good morning, you two.
Morning.
Can we have a look at the Sun on Sunday, Andy? Because the King is clearly getting fed up with Prince Andrew.
Yes, so Prince Andrew is currently living in the Royal Lodge. He's been stripped of his royal status, but he still obviously needs a security detail to keep him safe. And the King has announced that he's going to end this case of 10 officers looking after Prince Andrew as of October. However, we're also in a position of then what do you do next? It costs around $3 million a year to keep Prince Andrew safe, and he has $4 million a year to live on in other ways. Wow. However, obviously, look, whether you like Prince Andrew or not, he didn't ask to be born a member of the royal family, and the terror threat in the UK is incredibly high. And we have seen instances of people breaking into Buckingham Palace, targeting the royals, targeting, Donald Trump was shot at recently. We know that public figures are at risk, and so if you're not going to pay for him to have security, what is the alternative?
Yeah, but it's all boo-hoo, I don't want to move out of the Royal Lodge, isn't it?
Yeah.
So move him into Frogmore. If he just said, I'll go into Frogmore, presumably he'll get his security back.
Sure. But the other thing also, I suppose you'd say, if he's living in a large residence where he needs 10 officers to cover every corner of it, if he lived in a smaller residence, which was more befitting of a man of his now non-status, it would be easier and more cost-effective to
but he likes to share his home with his ex-wife.
Fergie.
Doesn't he? And I suppose in the huge Royal Lodge, because that's about 30 bedrooms.
It is. It's quite big.
They can live quite happily as separately as they want to in that place, but they couldn't in Frogmore.
Well, I'm just looking at it. It's got 5 bedrooms.
Which has?
Frogmore Cottage.
Yeah.
2 orangeries. And a yoga studio.
But
But
that's
maybe
very
that's
Meghan, isn't it?
yeah.
I mean,
it's not enough for Andrew.
I'm sure they could cope.
I don't think so, because he's been used to.
I don't care what he's used to.
He's been used to Royal Lodge, and also he's got a 75-year lease on there,
Yes,
right? So he does have rights to stay there.
But he doesn't have rights to the security that the King takes, which is why the King is playing it this way round.
He'd be much more secure in a one-bed flat.
Yeah.
Well, he would. But he was.
The main thing, apparently, is King Charles wants Royal Lodge for himself. But I'm thinking, why would you want to push Andrew out so much? Like, what is it?
I don't know.
Isn't it sad that you've got Charles and Andrew clearly don't get on?
That's what I was
And now you've got
thinking.
Harry and William not getting on.
Exactly.
And it doesn't seem to be a way forward.
Yeah.
Which is very sad. I mean, I suppose it's very typical of a lot of families, but it just seems very sad.
I think it all changed when the Queen went. Yeah, she was just that stabling force for the family.
Yeah.
Interesting. I think this is just family drama and whatnot. For me, I always say there is no perfect family. There is no family that doesn't have feud whatsoever, or people not liking themselves regardless their family, and they may have their disputes and whatnot, but at the same time they're still family. So regardless, if the king is making this decision, I mean, the king is the king, so is making a decision, taking this to play on the safe side or safe end, to be like, okay, move to this place, then you have your security, which makes sense. Or what do you think? Because obviously you have to weigh and look at all of the options and say, okay, which one is beneficial and which one is okay for him, and I mean less expensive. Talking about funds and all of that, where funds can also be used for something else instead of spending so much, which you think is more is affordable based on their standards. Let me know what you think about this, because this is just pure family feud regardless, but I mean it's something that they can easily sort out, or they can sort out regardless. It's irrespective of the fact that they are royal families or they are royalties regardless. But again, let's even talk about this apologizing for slavery. I don't think is the right move, because obviously if we're going to be talking about history itself, there are lots of things, or many things that happened in history, and many countries are not proud of it. Some countries should be proud of some events of the good deeds that they did. But obviously now they're trying to play that guilt part and guilt tricking some countries or some nations to feel guilty for the good things they did. And my question here is, why are people always labeling the bad things or the bad events and pushing aside the good ones? Why is that? If we're going to be honest, for me, the British, Britain shouldn't apologize for slavery or whatnot, because exactly what are they apologizing for? Are we talking about the abolishment of slavery? Because if you look at history, slavery did not just occur or happen in one place. It is a common business. But again, nobody would want to go back or live in that time where slavery existed. So best bet is people should move on. It is that simple. One way or the other, lots of people were hurt. But but the fact that people are picking and choosing the side or the narrative that they want for history, or they want in history, is what is not making sense. But let me know what you think. I'm sure tons of people have interesting things to share. I would really love you to share that. You can share the useful information you think might be really helpful. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe and all of that stuff. And until next time, see you in the next video.